Hey everyone, welcome back to dinner today. I know how you're feeling right now. You've been holding on, you've been waiting, and every week there's another wave of noise, another set of rumors, another reason to feel both hopeful and exhausted at the same time. I see you, I understand that journey because I'm on it with you. Something shifted this week, not in the way the hype channels are spinning it, not with secret meetings or overnight guarantees, but in a way that serious observers are quietly taking note of. And I want to walk through it with you carefully because this matters. Now, before we go further, let me be very clear about what this video is not. This is not about fantasy timelines. This is not about guaranteed events happening tonight or tomorrow morning. This is not about reading tea leaves or decoding cryptic messages. What this is about is understanding the actual structural pieces that are moving, what they mean in practical terms, and what you should be watching as we move forward. By the end of this video, you're going to clearly understand what changed this week, what didn't change, and more importantly, what actually matters for your position going forward. You'll see why certain pieces of news carry weight while others are just noise designed to generate clicks. Stay with me because once you see the structure behind this, the noise starts to disappear. And that clarity is what we all need right now. Let me start with the core framework. Iraq's central bank has been working toward monetary reform for years. You know this. We've watched the fits and starts, the policy announcements, the international meetings. But what matters now is understanding that we're no longer in the preparation phase, we're in the implementation phase. And there's a meaningful difference between those two stages. Here's what I mean. When Standard & Poor's, one of the world's major credit rating agencies, comes out and publicly commends Iraq's stable economic indicators, that's not routine praise. This is the same agency that has been skeptical of Iraq's economic trajectory for years. They specifically highlighted Iraq's reduction of fiscal deficit to 5% of GDP, their declining inflation, and their expectations for increased oil production. This is institutional validation from a source that doesn't hand out compliments lightly. Now, here's where this gets interesting. That kind of institutional recognition doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when the underlying fundamentals have shifted enough that major financial institutions feel comfortable putting their reputation behind positive assessments. Stay with me here because this connects to something bigger. At the same time, we're seeing a parliamentary movement in Iraq that signals internal alignment. The Council of Representatives is continuing legislative and oversight work specifically in support of reform efforts. The Prime Minister is urging all governmental institutions to implement cost rationalization measures and revenue enhancement decisions. These aren't aspirational statements anymore. These are implementation directives. And here's the part most people misunderstand. When you see multiple institutional layers, both international bodies like Standard & Poor's and internal Iraqi governmental structures, moving in coordinated fashion toward the same outcome, that's not coincidence. That's orchestration. That's the difference between hoping for change and preparing for implementation. Let me explain this clearly. For years, the question has been whether Iraq could create the conditions necessary for meaningful monetary reform. Could they stabilize their economy? Could they reduce their debt to GDP ratio? Could they gain international institutional confidence? Those were the open questions. Those questions are no longer open. Iraq has demonstrated the answers through measurable economic performance. The question now is different. The question now is about timing and coordination. And that's a fundamentally different conversation. Think about it this way. You don't see lower denomination currency appearing in ATMs unless the technical infrastructure for a rate change is in place. You don't see major credit agencies publicly praising economic stability unless they've done deep analysis and feel confident in their assessment. You don't see parliamentary bodies coordinating on reform implementation unless there's a clear end game they're working toward. These pieces don't move independently. They move as part of a larger coordinated system. And when you step back and look at the pattern rather than individual data points, what you're seeing is alignment, not speculation about alignment, actual demonstrated alignment across multiple institutional layers. Now, I want to address something directly because I know some of you are feeling fatigued. You've heard promising signals before. You've seen movement that didn't materialize into the outcome you're waiting for. That exhaustion is real and it's valid. But here's what I need you to understand. The structural pieces that are aligning now are different in nature from the speculative signals you've seen in the past. When we talk about Standard and Poor's assessments, we're talking about institutional risk evaluation. When we talk about lower denomination currency in ATMs, we're talking about technical infrastructure deployment. When we talk about parliamentary coordination on implementation measures, we're talking about governmental alignment on execution. These are not rumors. These are documented, verifiable institutional actions. This is the part where preparation becomes more important than speculation. Because if the structural pieces are aligning for implementation, then the practical question becomes whether you're ready when that implementation occurs. Not if you believe it will occur, not whether you can predict the exact date, but whether you have your documentation organized, whether you understand the exchange process, whether you've thought through your strategy for managing a significant financial change. Let me go one layer deeper on the timing question because I know that's what's on everyone's mind. There are credible indications that suggest we're in a very compressed timeline. Not because of secret intel or backroom whispers, but because of how coordinated institutional movement typically unfolds. When you see this kind of multi-layered alignment, the implementation window is usually measured in weeks or months, not years. But here's the critical distinction. A compressed timeline doesn't mean a guaranteed date. It means heightened probability within a defined window. And the practical response to heightened probability is preparation, not speculation. It's making sure you're ready so that if and when implementation occurs, you're positioned to act efficiently and intelligently. The other piece I want you to understand is the broader geopolitical context. Iraq's monetary reform doesn't exist in isolation. It's connected to Middle Eastern economic development, to international trade route restructuring, to the broader shift in how regional economies interact with global financial systems. The Development Road Project alone, which is designed to reshape trade routes from the Persian Gulf to Turkey, requires monetary stability to function. That project is moving forward, infrastructure is being built, cities are being planned. You don't launch that kind of multi-dead regional infrastructure without the monetary foundation to support it. And that monetary foundation requires a currency that can function effectively in international trade, not someday. Now, because the infrastructure development is happening now, this connects back to why institutional validation from bodies like Standard and Poor matters. They're not evaluating Iraq's currency potential in abstract terms. They're evaluating whether Iraq has created the economic conditions necessary to support the regional role they're positioning themselves to play. And their assessment suggests Iraq has done exactly that. Here's what this means for you practically. Stay informed through official channels. Watch for announcements from the Central Bank of Iraq. Watch for movement from Iraq's parliamentary bodies. Watch for continued institutional validation from international financial organizations. Those are the signals that carry actual weight. What you don't need to watch are the rumor mills, the guru predictions, the countdown clocks, the secret meeting reports. Those exist to generate engagement, not to provide accurate information. And at this stage, with structural pieces visibly aligning the difference between noise and signal becomes critically important. I also want to address the question of political coordination because it's relevant to understanding timing. There are indications that Iraq's monetary implementation is waiting on coordinated political optics. That's not the same as saying it's waiting on political permission. The structural work is done, the technical infrastructure is in place. What remains is choosing the optimal moment for public implementation in a way that serves multiple political objectives simultaneously. That kind of coordination typically happens around significant political moments or during periods when public attention is focused elsewhere. It's about managing the narrative around a major economic change, not about whether the change itself is ready to occur. What does that mean for your timeline expectations? It means we're likely closer than many people think, but that the exact moment will be chosen for strategic reasons we may not fully see until after it happens. And that's okay, because your job isn't to predict the exact moment. Your job is to be ready when that moment arrives. Let me bring this together for you clearly. Iraq has demonstrably created the economic conditions necessary for monetary reform. International institutions are validating that progress publicly. Internal governmental structures are coordinating on implementation measures. Technical infrastructure, including lower denomination currency, is being positioned. The pieces are not moving toward readiness. The pieces are demonstrating readiness. The remaining variable is timing and coordination. And while we can't control that variable, we can control our preparation for it. We can make sure our documentation is in order. We can make sure we understand the exchange process. We can make sure we have a clear plan for managing a significant financial change. That's where your focus should be right now. This is also a moment to acknowledge the emotional journey you've been on. Years of holding, years of hope mixed with skepticism, years of watching and waiting while life continues to happen around you. That takes resilience, that takes faith, that takes patience that most people don't possess. And I want you to know that the preparation you've maintained through this entire journey is what positions you to benefit when implementation occurs. The people who gave up, who lost faith, who sold their position because they couldn't maintain patience through uncertainty, those people won't benefit from what's coming. But you've maintained your position. You've stayed informed. You've remained engaged. That discipline is what separates those who benefit from major financial shifts from those who miss them. So as we move through these final stages, keep that perspective. This isn't about getting lucky. This isn't about being in the right place at the right time by accident. This is about having the discipline and patience to hold a position through uncertainty until the structural pieces align. And those structural pieces are aligning now in ways that are documented and verifiable. Stay focused on preparation. Stay connected to official information sources. Stay calm and grounded even as the signals intensify, because the people who navigate major financial transitions successfully are the ones who remain clear-headed and prepared, not the ones who get swept up in emotional speculation. To summarize what we've covered, Standard & Poor's has publicly validated Iraq's economic stability, marking a significant shift in institutional perception. Iraq's internal governmental structures are coordinating on implementation measures across multiple layers. Technical infrastructure, including lower denomination currency, is being positioned. These are not speculative signals. These are documented institutional actions that indicate we're in an implementation phase, not a preparation phase. The timeline remains dependent on coordinated political optics, but the compressed nature of current institutional alignment suggests we're measuring the window in weeks to months, not years. Your focus should be on preparation, documentation, and clear strategic planning for managing a significant financial change. This journey has required tremendous patience. It's required through uncertainty. It required discipline to hold a position when others were selling out of frustration or doubt. That discipline is what positions you to benefit from what's coming. And I believe with increasing confidence that what's coming is closer than most people realize. Stay calm, stay prepared, stay connected to official information rather than rumor mills, and know that the years of patience and discipline you've invested are positioning you for the outcome you've been waiting for. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for your patience and your faith through this long journey. I'll continue to bring you the most accurate information I can find, filtered through the lens of what actually matters rather than what generates clicks. Preparation beats speculation every single time. I'll see you in the next update.